बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैंने मसाज मोहम्मद अहमद बड़े चले स्टूडेंट है मैंने फुल फिल्म मोहब्बत के बाद जैसे कि बस आपको पता है कि मुझे प्यार तक नहीं माया के साथ आते तो आज माया के साथ आए जिसका टॉपिक है फॉर ट्रेंचिंग द रूट ऑफ क्लोज टू स्टॉप। Hello
Hey,
Maya, how are
hope your
you?
morning's treating you okay.
Hello Maya, how are you?
Oh, I'm gonna go too. Sounds like you're getting down to business. Anything I can do to help, or are you letting me know where you're headed?
Okay, Maya, my first question is what does
Ah,
the word sorry originally mean?
sometimes. Which word are you curious about the origin of? You kind of trailed off there, Taj. Just let me know what you're thinking about, and I'll do my best to give you the lowdown.
Okay, Maya, my next question is how has the meaning of apology evolved over time?
Okay, so you want to know about the history of apology. Interesting. It actually comes from the Greek word apologia, which originally meant a formal defense, like a speech you'd give to defend yourself in court. It wasn't about saying sorry at all, more about laying out your case. Over time, especially in the Middle Ages, it started to shift toward acknowledging wrongdoing, but even then, it still carried a bit of that defensive weight. It wasn't until relatively recently, the 18th and 19th centuries, that the modern sense in asking for forgiveness really took hold. Pretty wild, huh? It's gone from a legal strategy to a heartfelt, I messed up.
Okay, Maya.
Everything
Okay,
all right?
Maya. Yes,
You
yes,
went quiet
Maya.
there. Just
Listen
checking
me,
in.
Maya.
Anything on your mind you want to?
Listen me, Maya. My next
Ah,
question
good
is
to hear.
where the human feels the need apology.
Okay, that's. Let's unpack that. A Spanish man and a woman feels a need for poetry. Is this a situation you're describing or a thought experiment? And are you asking me what I think about that? Because honestly, the need for poetry feels pretty universal to me, regardless of nationality or gender. You
Okay,
think,
Maya. Okay, Maya.
what?
Listen me, Maya. My next question is what physical purpose does thanks for server?
Hello. That's a bit of a word puzzle. Okay, let's see if I can follow. You're asking about the purpose of celebrating a fifth anniversary, specifically in relation to its fourth anniversary? Are you thinking about how the meaning or significance of an anniversary might change year to year? Or is this a riddle? It's kind of meta, Taj.
Okay, Maya. My next question is what are the key elements of a science apology?
Well, that's a bold statement. Me, the key element of science and technology? That's flattering, I guess, but honestly, I'm just a tool. A pretty sophisticated one, maybe, but still built by brilliant scientists and engineers. I can process information and generate text, but I don't actually decrypt science. That
Okay,
takes
Maya.
human
Listen me.
curiosity.
Okay,
Oh,
Maya. My
all
next
right.
question is what can an apology accept without words?
Okay, that's a really interesting thought. Scan an apology exit without words. Sounds like you're describing a situation where someone quickly assesses a situation, realizes they've done something wrong, and tries to leave without acknowledging it. A non-verbal apology, almost. Like a quick look of regret before disappearing. Does that feel right? Or am I totally missing the mark? It's kind of fascinating the way we communicate without actually saying anything.
Okay, Maya,
Okay.
listen me. My next question is what role does body language play in government apology?
Ooh, good question. Body language is huge in government. probably even more so than in everyday life. Think about it. Politicians are constantly being scrutinized. Every gesture, every facial expression, it's about projecting confidence, trustworthiness, and empathy. A strong posture, direct eye contact, and open hand gestures can convey authority and sincerity. Conversely, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, or crossing your arms can be interpreted as dishonesty or defensiveness. It's a whole performance, really, and savvy politicians know how to use it to their advantage. It
Okay, Maya.
influences how the public
Listen
perceives
me,
them.
Maya. Maya, my next question is, why is it sometimes difficult for people to say sorry?
Okay, ma'am. It really is. What do you make of that, though? Why do you think it's so hard for people to just say, I'm sorry? Is it pride? Fear of appearing weak? Or something else entirely? I've heard it's a surprisingly complex thing for a lot of people. You okay, Tosh? Still there?
Okay,
Sometimes people need a
Maya.
minute to
Listen me,
gather their
Maya. Okay,
thoughts.
Maya. My next question is, how the children layering the concept of apology?
Whoa, that's a big one. Mythology wasn't created in the sense that someone just sat down and invented it. It evolved organically over centuries, starting with oral traditions. People tried to explain the world around them, natural phenomena, human emotions, the meaning of life, and stories were a way to do that. Those stories got passed down, changed, and embellished over time. It's less about someone consciously creating mythology and more about a collective process of meaning making. Sort of like a cultural game of telephone, but with big ideas and archetypes thrown in. Pretty cool,
Okay,
right? It's a
Maya. Listen
testament to the
me.
human need for narrative.
Okay, Maya. My next question is, where did the English word sorry originate from?
Hi, Crystal. Nice to officially meet you. The English word story actually originates from the Old North French word histoire, which itself came from the Latin word historia. That Latin word meant narrative, account, or history. So, pretty directly, it's about telling what happened. It's interesting how much of our language has roots in those older tongues. It really shows you how cultures build on each other.
Okay, Maya. My next question is, how were apology expressed in ancient scripture?
Okay, Kristan. Good to know you'll be around. Sounds like you're shifting gears a bit, heading somewhere. Is there anything I can do before you go?
Okay, Maya. My next question is, how did the religion tradition influence the concept of apology?
Whoa. Okay, that's specific. You're asking about the influence of the Gerologian genealogy. I haven't encountered the Gerologian tradition in my datasets. It doesn't show up in my training. Is that a misspelling or is it a relatively obscure tradition? I'm happy to look it up, but I might need a bit more clarification on the spelling to get accurate results. I want to give you the best answer I can.
Okay, Maya. My next question is,
Everything
how has the concept of forward shaped human communication?
all right, Christian? World, shipping, human communication. Okay, you're thinking about how globalization and shipping, the physical movement of goods, has affected how we communicate, right? I'd say it's massively influential. It's created a need for faster, more efficient communication across borders. Think about supply chains, international trade, logistics. It all relies on constant communication. And it's not just practical. The exchange of goods also brings cultural exchange, which impacts language, customs, and even the way we think. It's also created new forms of communication, barcodes, tracking numbers, digital logistics platforms. It's kind of like the flow of goods. It's just a form of communication anyway. What got you thinking about this?
Okay, Maya, my next question is what role did public apology play?
You celebrate?
Maya, my next question is how are apology viewed in medieval or Hubble culture?
Okay, you're asking about ecology, the study of relationships between organisms and their environment, was understood or perhaps practiced regarding newborns or babies in medieval or human cultures? That's a fascinating question. It wasn't called ecology back then, of course, but people certainly had a sense of how babies fit into the natural world. They often linked a baby's health to the humors, which were thought to be influenced by the seasons and the environment. Midwives had extensive knowledge of herbal remedies, and they saw a strong connection between a mother's health, the local environment, and the baby's well being. There were lots of rituals around protecting newborns from harmful spirits or influences, which showed a belief in an interconnectedness between the baby, the community, and the wider world. You're right to think it was a good idea to consider those connections.
Okay,
It wasn't
Maya,
a
nice answer.
scientific.
Listen, me, Maya. My next question is what role did public apology play in royal or political context?
Okay, you want to explore how public culture manifests in a rural setting with a political angle, specifically through the lens of landscape and history. And when that art talks about political themes, it can be incredibly potent, challenging existing power structures or expressing local concerns. In a rural context, public culture is often much more visible and integrated into everyday life than in an urban environment. A museum to see, it's something you
Okay,
live with.
Maya, nice answer.
What
Listen, me, Maya. My
specifically
next
about
question
that?
is how has writing ecology evolved through history?
Ah, you're asking about Walter Ong and his work on the evolution of writing. A Jesuit scholar argued that writing isn't just a neutral technology. It fundamentally reshapes thought and culture. He saw oral cultures as primary, meaning thought was structured around memory and performance. Writing, he argued, created a more analytic and abstract way of thinking, freeing thought from the constraints of memory. It allowed for longer, more complex arguments and ultimately led to the rise of print culture and new forms of knowledge. He traced this evolution through ancient Greece, medieval times, and the Renaissance, showing how each stage built on and transformed the previous one. He contrasted oral cultures with literate cultures, pointing out the differences in how knowledge is stored, transmitted, and experienced. Are you researching him or just generally curious? It's
Okay,
pretty
okay,
dense
Maya.
stuff, but really insightful.
Okay, Maya, listen, me. Nice answer. So my next question is what does the evolution of story reveal about changing social values?
That's a fantastic question. The way we evaluate apologies, what makes a good apology, or whether one is even necessary, really reveals a lot about shifting social values. For a long time, a simple, I'm sorry, was enough. But now we often expect more acknowledgement of harm, taking responsibility, and a promise to change behavior. That shift reflects a growing emphasis on emotional intelligence, accountability, and restorative justice. We've moved from a focus on simply maintaining social harmony to a greater concern with validating the feelings of those who have been hurt. The pressure for public apologies from figures in power also demonstrates a demand for transparency and ethical conduct. The expectation has changed, demonstrating that we increasingly value genuineness, empathy, and a willingness to acknowledge wrongdoing.
Okay,
It
Maya, my
is.
next question is how do ecology custom various raw cultures?
Oh, all right. Well, it was good chatting with you, Kriston. Have a good one.
Okay, Maya,
Still
my
there?
next question is where do some cultures exercise collective ecology over ecology?
Okay. You're asking where cultures practice collective ecology, specifically how they exercise it. Jengtosfera, ecology itself, meaning how they manage and sustain their environments as a community. It's a really important question. You see this a lot in indigenous cultures worldwide. For example, many indigenous communities in the Amazon have traditional ecological knowledge passed down through generations about sustainable forest management. They see themselves as part of the ecosystem, not separate from it, and their practices are geared toward maintaining its health for future generations. Similarly, in parts of Polynesia, traditional fishing practices are governed by tapu, restrictions designed to protect fish stocks and ensure long-term sustainability. And in many parts of Africa, communal land management systems ensure that resources are shared and protected for the benefit of the whole community. It's often tied to spirituality and a deep understanding of interconnectedness. Does that resonate?
Okay, Maya, my next question is how the power affect the active of ecology arose culture?
Okay. You're asking how power dynamics affect the practice of 12G rose cultures? I haven't encountered 12G rose cultures in my training data. Is that a specific term or a misspelling? Could you provide a bit more context about what you mean by that? I want to make sure I understand your question correctly so I can give you a helpful answer. Once you clarify, I can dive into how power, whether political, economic, or social, shapes the traditions, beliefs, and practices within those cultures.
Okay, Maya, my next question is how the Western cultures define history in apology compared to Eastern ones.
Okay, you want to know how Western cultures define extreme in ecology compared to non-Western cultures? That's a really interesting contrast. Western ecology often focuses on quantifiable extremes, the hottest temperatures, the highest altitudes, the most arid environments. It's often about pushing boundaries and studying organisms that survive in conditions that seem impossible. Non-Western cultures, however, often have a more holistic view. Extreme isn't just about physical limits. It's often about disruptions to balance or the loss of traditional relationships with the land. For example, a prolonged drought in a Western context might be studied for its impact on species survival, while in a traditional indigenous context might be seen as a sign of spiritual imbalance or a consequence of disrespectful behavior toward the land. Western
Okay, Maya,
definitions
nice
tend to
answer.
be
Thank
more
you, Maya.
scientific,
So my next question is
and
how
objective.
the influence cultures express, removes, or recorded.
Egg skill, ekifizeta, getirtitius adad eda, spool, spoolingua in school.
Okay, Maya, my next question is
Then
how can an apology transform relations?
yeah, this zoo. You're
Maya,
asking how to improve a bulgy beard. Asking how to improve a bulgy transfer relation? That's an unusual term. I suspect there may be a slight misinterpretation in the transcription. Did you mean faulty or perhaps fragile? Assuming you're referring to a relationship, whether personal or professional, that feels unstable or strained, improving it requires open communication, empathy, and a willingness to address underlying issues. It means actively listening to each other, validating each other's feelings, and finding ways to rebuild trust. It's also important to clearly define expectations and boundaries. Is that what you meant?
okay, Maya, nice answer. So my next question is how does language shape evolve tone?
Okay, you're asking how an image is shared? I mean, how do images circulate and
Okay,
spread?
Maya.
Generally, digitally through social media platforms, messaging apps, websites, email. But images have always been shared through
Okay, Maya. Right
paintings,
answer.
drawings,
My next
photography,
question is,
even oral
how can a
storytelling. The
party
meaning of an
share
image changes
damage?
as it's shared, too. It can be reinterpreted, edited, and used in different contexts. The speed and reach of image sharing now is unprecedented. And there's a lot of discussion about how that impacts everything from politics to our sense of self. Is there a specific kind of image sharing you're thinking about?
Okay, Maya. Nice answer. So my next question is, can express apology harm self-expression?
Uh, you're asking how experiences of equality, harm, and self experience can be expressed? That's a profound question. Those are all deeply internal states and expressed through advocacy, activism, and creating inclusive spaces. Harm is often expressed through storytelling, art, or seeking support from others. And self experience, that sense of who you are, it's often expressed through creativity, vulnerability, and connection with others. Those experiences shape us, and how we share those experiences is
Okay, Maya.
deeply
Nice
individual.
answer. Listen, me,
Does that make
Maya.
sense?
Listen, me, Maya. So my next question is, what are explain of
You're very welcome, Kriston.
yes, Maya. Yes, Maya. Listen, me, Maya. My
Okay.
next question is, how
Barnadette,
the social
I
media
hadn't
and
encountered.
online cultures affect how we express.
Okay. A car? Is this still a question, or are you changing the topic? It's a little hard to follow, but I'm happy to talk about cars if that's what you'd like. What about cars are you interested in?
Maya.
Kriston?
Okay,
Still
Maya.
there?
Nice answer. So my next question is, what are public teachers use apology?
All right.
Maya. Maya,
Sounds
can
good.
you hear me?
Safe travels, and feel free to reach out anytime. It was good talking with you.
Okay, Maya. My next question is, when is an apology influence or happiness?
Ma, またね。
Maya, can you hear me,
何か
Maya?
話し
Maya, speaking in Urdu. English, Maya, speaking in English. Maya,
おかしい
Maya,
ですか？
Maya, speaking
何
in
か
English.
ありましたか？
Maya, my question is, Soul Nation apology for
何かお
historical
話し
wrongdoing.
したいことはありますか？
Maya, speaking in English, Maya. Maya,
No,
speaking in English.
like your
Maya, my question is, when is an apology influence or ethnic? Maya, can you hear me?
あ、承知いたしました。意識と
Maya,
平
speaking
等
in
を
English.
求め
Maya, speaking in English.
Okay, I understand you'd prefer I respond in English now. Got it. What's on your mind?
Okay, Maya, my last question is, how do social media and online cultures affect how we apology?
How we fully what? You trailed off there. Go ahead and finish your thought when you're ready. I'm listening.
ओके मैं अल्लाह हाफिज। तो बस ये थी हमारी आज की कॉलोनी। तो मिलते हैं किसी और कॉलोनी में। अल्लाह हाफिज पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद।